The network pulled an entire family off a show that averaged nearly 3 million viewers a week, and neither side ever told the public why. Rick Dale built one of the most watched craft shows in History Channel history out of a Las Vegas restoration shop that barely anyone outside Nevada had heard of. Then, without a press release, without a public statement, and without a single sentence of explanation from Rick or the network, he was gone. By the time this is over, you'll understand exactly what happened to American Restoration, why the official silence made complete sense, and what it actually cost everyone involved. The story doesn't start on television. It starts in a neighborhood in Boulder City, Nevada, sometime in the late 1960s. Rick Dale's family didn't have extra money. There were no birthday bikes bought new from a store. When Rick was 9 years old, his father pulled a rusted bicycle out of a neighbor's trash and handed it to him with something close to a lesson. If you want something, build it yourself. You'll appreciate it more. Rick rode that bike around the neighborhood, and by his own account, it was the coolest bicycle on the block. By 15, he was rebuilding cars and motorcycles. By the time he was an adult, restoration was less a hobby and more a compulsion, the instinct to take something broken and make it work again. He opened Rick's Restorations in Las Vegas and spent the better part of 3 decades turning rusted gas pumps, dead jukeboxes, cracked neon signs, and battered vending machines into pieces people wanted to keep. No cameras, no crew, just the work. That part matters, because the version of Rick Dale the country eventually fell in love with was, in most ways, exactly the same man who'd been doing this quietly for 30 years before anyone pointed a lens at him. And if you think that was surprising, stay with me, because this next part is why the whole story matters. Pawn Stars launched on the History Channel in 2009, and within its first season, it was already one of the biggest shows on cable. The show followed Rick Harrison at the Gold and Silver Pawn Shop in Las Vegas, and whenever something came in that needed restoration work, they called the same person, Rick Dale. He wasn't an actor. He wasn't trying to be on television. He showed up, assessed the piece, and told them what it would take to bring it back. But producers noticed something. Audiences responded to him the same way they responded to the craft itself. There was something in the way he talked about old objects, the specificity of it, the genuine care that cut through the noise. Left Field Pictures, the production company behind Pawn Stars, approached Rick about building an entire show around his shop. He said no, or something close to it. Rick's concern was practical. He restored vending machines and gas pumps. He wasn't sure that was enough material for a full television series. Producers convinced him otherwise, and on October 25, 2010, American Restoration premiered on the History Channel. What happened to his business in the months that followed was something he had not prepared for. By Rick's own account, the show increased activity at Rick's Restorations roughly 50 times over. The waiting list to get something restored grew to 2 years. The shop had to move to a larger warehouse in downtown Las Vegas. A crew that had once been small and family-run was now operating on television schedules, camera deadlines, and a production structure that someone else had designed. Most people who know this story stop here. But the real story starts right now. Here is something that almost never gets discussed when people talk about what went wrong with American Restoration. Rick Dale's name was on the building. His face was on the screen. But inside the production structure, he didn't control who came through the door. According to accounts from people close to the show, the production company selected the clients, negotiated the restoration prices, and covered the cost of the actual work. Rick and his team received a per-episode fee in place of what they would have charged customers directly. In exchange, everything the camera captured, the clients, the projects, the dramatic reveals, was filtered through what made good television, not necessarily what made good business sense for Rick's Restorations. He was, in a functional sense, performing the role of owner of his own shop inside a show that someone else produced. For the early seasons, this arrangement worked. The projects were interesting, the family dynamic was genuine, and the format trusted the craft to carry the hour. That trust didn't last. And that's when the decision was made, the one nobody around him saw coming. Around seasons 3 and 4, something shifted in how American Restoration was constructed. Viewers who watched closely noticed it first. The time devoted to showing actual restoration work, the steps, the problem-solving, the transformation, started shrinking. What filled the gap was manufactured friction, crew conflicts that felt written, running jokes that wore out after 2 episodes, plot lines built around Rick's son Tyler that leaned into teenage sitcom territory. A character known as Cowboy became a focal point of tension that many viewers found more exhausting than entertaining. The fan forums were not subtle about it. Reviewers on IMDb wrote variations of the same complaint. The first 3 seasons were great, and then the network started adding scripted drama that killed the show. Ratings began to decline. History Channel's response to declining ratings was, predictably, to push for more of the elements they believed drove engagement: more interpersonal conflict, more stakes, more manufactured pressure. The craft itself was being treated as backdrop. According to sources familiar with the situation, Rick pushed back. Reported accounts described disputes between Rick and producers over the show's direction. One reported flashpoint was History Channel's intention to reduce the number of episodes, effectively shrinking American Restoration's footprint. Rick objected. The friction escalated. What happened next is the reason this story spread across the internet. When Season 7 of American Restoration premiered in January 2016, Rick Dale was not in it. Neither was his crew. Not Tyler, not Ron, not Kelly, not Brettley. The entire cast of a show that had run for 6 seasons and accumulated 126 episodes was gone. In their place, 5 different restoration businesses from across the country, each with its own specialty. The network had decided the concept could survive without the people who built it. It couldn't. Viewers didn't come back. The multi-shop format failed to build the kind of investment that 6 years of one family's story had created. The season lasted 1 run. American Restoration was canceled on April 1, 2016. Rick posted a video online. He thanked his fans. He asked them to go to the official website and express their feelings directly to the network. He never explained what had happened. History Channel never issued a statement. 2 sides who had built something together ended it without a word to the people who had watched it every week. The shop at 800 West Mesquite Avenue, the one so popular that fans paid for tours of the yard, closed permanently. Without the production subsidy covering overhead, the operation was unsustainable. Decades of tools, equipment, and built reputation could not cover the cost of a warehouse and a full crew without a television deal. Here's what the comments kept asking, and here's the answer they never got, until now. The collapse of Rick's Restorations didn't mean the end of the people who ran it. Rick moved into custom laser-cut metal art and embroidery through a business called My Best Font Forward, which he runs with Kelly. He wrote a book about vintage soda machines. He shows up at car shows. He's active on Instagram. He stepped back from the kind of visibility that television demands, and by all available evidence, he did it deliberately. Kelly Dale built a career in Las Vegas real estate and became a top producing agent. Tyler stayed in fabrication, woodworking, metalwork, welding in Las Vegas, though largely out of the public eye. Brettley Otterman launched his own mobile media blasting business and is raising a family. The crew scattered, each person landing somewhere that matched what they were actually good at outside the frame of a television format. None of them became cable stars. All of them kept working. And if you look at what American Restoration left behind, the dozens of YouTube channels dedicated to restoration, many of which cite the show as the reason they started. The work Rick Dale did for 6 seasons clearly outlasted the deal that ended it. American Restoration didn't fail because Rick Dale ran out of interesting objects to restore. It failed because a network mistook the reason people watched. They watched because of the craft, and because the people doing it were real. When the show shifted its energy toward manufacturing the kind of drama that filled every other reality hour on cable, it stopped being the thing its audience had chosen. History Channel tried to keep the show running without the man who made it worth watching. 1 season was enough to prove what Rick Dale's absence actually cost. As of 2026, Rick Dale hasn't returned to television. Whether that's his choice or the industry's is something only he knows, and so far, he hasn't said. Do you think History Channel made a mistake cutting Rick Dale from his own show, or was he equally responsible for the breakdown? Drop your take below.